You face the boss of blades.
Hello Slingers, today we are going over American Rao, aka Tinker and Iymrith, which is a deck that I played in the Mythic League 9 tournament. Originally this list did run Aether Figments as a potential early blocker and early aggression, as well as drawing insights to be able to start getting more cards off Iymrith, as well as being a 1-mana draw a lot of the time, as long as you don't use it to interfere accidentally with Path of the Barbarian. So the deck, of course, is running Tinker and Academy because there's a large amount of artifacts. So the first artifact we play costs 1 less, but then we have this drawback that always seems to happen, that we get a random artifact in our deck instead of getting a gem. Says 20% of the time, it feels like way too much, to be honest. This is actually a Path of the Barbarian list for Rao. So what's very cool is Axe of Vengeance will cost 0 because of Tinker and Academy. And then once you get up to Indomitable Strength, you have some ability to go for winning the game. And of course, Mindless Rage being a 2-mana removal spell. So the cool thing is, this particular deck runs Iymrith. Why? Because Rao has a very good way of sending cards to the graveyard and just outright playing cards to be able to swing with Iymrith for large numbers. Iymrith starts as a 1/4 for 3, but it flies and it attacks, you mill 2, but then you get +1/+0 for every 5 cards in your graveyard. So it's not very difficult to get 8 cards in your graveyard, swinging with a 3/4 as early as turn 4. Sometimes even potentially bigger and earlier, thanks to cards like Mana Surge, which just give you 3 mana for 2. Of course, we're running Spark of Genius, which is a 0 mana to add a card to our graveyard to boost Iymrith, as well as giving us a random spell of our choice of 3. Then we, of course, have Tinker as a 2-of, destroy an artifact to draft an artifact and summon it. Some really dumb ones could be like Survivor's Regalia. The strongest one's probably Hellvault. But a lot of the artifacts you get can be pretty good. It's very rare that you get 3 terrible artifacts off of your Tinker. And one of the greatest things of that is you can Tinker off your Axe of Vengeance and get a Hellvault as early as turn 1, and then you just don't lose those games. Then we, of course, are running the simple Shock, just 2 damage to anything for 1, removal, or sometimes endgame power. Then we have 2 Thing in the Ice. You know, the 0/3 for 2. If you play our 3rd spell or more in a turn, it flips into a 5/4 that stuns a creature. We are mainly playing it because it is the best 5-power creature that we can play for 2 mana a lot of the time, and it's pretty much a staple card in every single Rao deck you can play. We have Anticipates to draft a card and draw. They were a lot stronger with the Aether Figments, but as far as 2 mana draw, there really isn't a lot of other options anyway. Then we're running 2 Isochron Scepters. Draft a spell that costs 2 or less, add it to our hand. A lot of really good options could be like Grudge Match, or things that give Ward, sometimes things that give Armor. Of course, Drum Up Support's a really good one because it can make a Chump Blocker and also activate 3 spells in a turn by itself. So Scepter is definitely very strong, especially with the Tinker and Academy, making it cost only 1. Then we have Bag of Tricks, which costs 1 with the Tinker and Academy as well a lot of the time. It adds a random beast to our hand that costs 3 or less. And it's got 3 charges, so a lot of the time we're using it to survive the early game, maybe put up a 4-power creature that we can buff with the Axe to be able to deal the 5 damage later on with the 3rd spell of Indomitable Strength. But it's very good for early game. It's very strong along with the turn 1 play, as long as we have like Scepter, and of course we do get the option of the Axe for 0 into a Tinker. It's a lot of really strong turn 1 plays, but the mulliganing can definitely be tough. Then we're running Scalper Stand, which a lot of the time is going to be a divination for 1, but it doesn't use a spell. It's a 2-mana artifact that has 2 charges. We can activate it to draw a temporary card. So a lot of the games I've had, I've accidentally used it early, hit Chaos Lightning, oops, can't cast it, now I only have 1 Chaos Lightning, but a lot of the time, Scalper Stand can help you to go through the skills faster on Path of the Barbarian once you know you're guaranteed to draw specific skill cards. So it's very good for going through that, as well as late game dig for other stuff, because everything in the deck does cost 5 or less. Then we have, of course, the OG 2 Divinations, just a simple draw 2 cards for 3. It's probably the other really good draw effect here that you actually definitely want. So between that, the Scalper Stands, and the Anticipates, we do have 6 cards that help us to draw, which is one of the advantages we'd have over a Nahiri list that runs Barbarian, is they could be stuck and not being able to Indomitable Strength till like turn 9 sometimes, which would be obviously very weak. Now, one of the drops he did was the Aether Figments. We put in Blitzing Minotaur. He's just a simple 4/3 for 3 with haste, but if we have the Axe, he swings for 5. I do believe maybe Ball Lightning could have been a better choice, though, because a lot of the time I do get rid of the Axe to Tinker, and then it's a lot of the time hard to buff him to the 5 power that is needed. Magnum Opus, very strong, obviously, good card. Summons a dude that gets either a random +2/+0 or +0/+2 every time we cast a spell. And despite the fact we have a large amount of artifacts, there are definitely enough spells and ways to get spells in the deck. So Magma Opus is definitely a very powerful creature that we get off a spell. Then we're running Zozu. Love Zozu. Gets big for every mana crystal our opponent has. 0/4 for 4. He has haste. He's always going to pretty much be triggering that third spell, Indomitable Strength, off Path of the Barbarian. He's such a good card against decks that ramp, and if your opponent Day of Judgments, nothing like a good Zozu to take them on. Then there is 1 copy of Mind Magnifier. I honestly think the card is it's good. It's extremely good if you copy like Chaos Lightning, or if you get 2 copies of Indomitable Strength. But 2 copies is definitely not a good idea, because it is not something that you can just play by yourself. I think it was okay, but I honestly don't think I would continue playing a copy of Mind Magnifier. I try and find something else for the slot. I don't think Blitzing Minotaurs are worth an end either. I'd probably just play Ball Lightnings, as I said. But then we also have 2 copies of Chaos Lightning. Deal 1 damage to random enemies for each spell we played this game. Maximum of 10, which is absolutely incredible. It just is always going to be a full board clear. Let our board go into swing and take our opponent out using the Indomitable Strength. Clears the board for Magma Opus. You could also Chaos Lightning into like a Zozu to be able to deal big damage. Absolutely crazy powerful card for Rao. For the sideboard, we had 2 copies of Pyroclasm. Our deck has a lot of creatures that have large amounts of toughness, so we're not really affected as much by Pyroclasm, but it's very good against like decks like Chandra and maybe Nahiri, some other decks that have low toughness creatures. It's good against Garruk, but if they know it's coming, they might try and keep their creatures with toughness 3 or greater if they can. We have 1 copy of Negate to be good against other Path of Barbarian decks and try and force through our cards through counter spells. But we also have a copy of Mana Short to be really good against ramp decks that can't use their full ramp potential, and also to shut down our opponent's traps similar to Negate, but giving us a large amount of mana to work with on our own turn. Then there's 2 copies of Unsummon. They are mainly there to deal with the Liliana matchup, but they can be very good for tempo-based matchups. They're just arguably not worth main decking in a tournament setting because they are not very good against Garruk. And that is American Rao. Thanks for watching, Slingers, and please like, comment, subscribe. Peace.
I had to gas off. Oppers fool me, so I put my mask on. Keep the tool me, gotta keep the 9 high. Flexing Louis V, yeah, keep my cash on. Sticking true to me, I never had to gas off. I'ma pop off, yeah, I said I'll pop off.